The semi-annual International Monetary Fund and World Bank meetings will be taking place, it's already taking place this week, in Washington, D.C., in the United States, April 21 to 26, we're told, against a backdrop of global uncertainty sparked by the Trump administration's fiscal policy regarding tariffs. Arise Business Correspondent Rotus Oddiri is live in Washington, D.C. with the latest developments at that meeting. Good morning, Rotus. Hello, Rotus. Good morning from Lagos.
Dr. Abati. Good morning. Good morning,
Very good. Very good,
Good
Rotus.
to see you all.
Very good to have you on the program. Well, you know, you are the spring meeting of the IMF and the World Bank. What should we look forward to today at the meetings in Washington, D.C.?
Dr. Abati, today everyone is looking forward to the IMF World Bank, the economic outlook, global economic outlook. Last week, Kristina Georgieva said that uncertainty was off the charts. By the way, good morning to all our viewers, particularly our YouTube constituency. You have to shout them out. She said the uncertainty was off the charts last week, and that was going to weigh on the outlook reports. But she said she hesitated on saying that using the R word, recession. So basically, they're going to mark down those 3% levels that they had for the global economy, the U.S., based on the tariffs. I mean, that is the obvious issue that is going to be dominating everything. There's also going to be a stability report that's going to be a financial stability report that's going to be released later on. That, of course, is expected to be modified. And there will also be a discussion on the global south and debt. We're always talking about debt. But the normal discussions around Ukraine, climate change, those are going to be taking a backseat. It's all about trade this week at the IMF World Bank meetings in D.C.
And of course, since it's all about trade, we understand Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will be holding bilateral talks this week as well. So who's he going to be speaking to? Very keen to find out.
Well, I hope he speaks to Arise News. We're going to be camped out tracking Scott
Very
Bessent.
important.
Everybody wants to talk to him. So, very important. We're going to be tracing him everywhere. But he's supposed to be speaking with Katsunobu Kato, who is the finance minister for Japan, and Chung Mok-sang, who is the finance minister for South Korea. If you remember last week, it was reported the delegation from Japan met with the U.S., but they didn't come away with anything. And if you remember, or if you know, I mean, Dr. Abati has talked about this in particular, working on trade deals takes anywhere from 12 to 18 months. Giorgia Meloni, the head of for Italy, she was there last week, didn't come away with anything. It's a very complex process. So the fact that the Trump administration is beating its chest and bragging about talking to 50-plus nations about negotiations, the issue is how much time will it take to get those negotiations, off the ground. So Bessent has asked for Japan and South Korea's finance minister to meet him on the sideline. So we're also hoping to talk to them just to get some feel. But I know they will be very cautious about what they say because they just want to be able to avoid as much as they can these high tariffs that are on the table from the Trump administration.
All righty, Rotus. We're going to take a very short break, and then when we come back, we will continue our discussions with our business correspondent and anchor, Rotus Oddiri. Stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still joined by Rotus Oddiri, our business correspondent and anchor. And now I think we can actually see Rotus. Whoa, there he is. Good morning, Rotus. How you doing? Welcome.
I'm fine, Adifemi. Sorry about the connection issue. Maybe I'll keep my answers quick and short.
All right, Rotus, but I hope you can hear us despite the fact that we've just lost your visuals. That being said, we also understand that Jerome Powell will be at the meetings this week. What do you think we should expect from him, and how are markets reacting to, Trump's continued attacks on him at the helm of the Fed? What do you think?
Powell will be talking about central bank independence. He'll also be talking about his resistance to cutting rates because he wants to see the impact of the tariffs. He's also going to talk about uncertainty. He talked about this last week, so he's going to repeat those same comments. And the markets, it fell in the U.S. yesterday. Big drops in the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, and the NASDAQ because Trump's attacks on Powell are a threat to central bank independence, which investors don't like.
I was listening to you to say more about President Trump referring to Powell as Mr. Too Late and a major loser, as he called him, for refusing to cut interest rates. And how that is causing anxieties, anxiety across the world, and central banks trying to see whether they should devalue their currencies. Now that the dollar, within 3 years is at its lowest point. But one lingering question in the air is the continued U.S. support for the World Bank. What do we know now that President Trump has ordered a review, 180-day review, he calls it, of international institutions? Do you think that the U.S., as a major shareholder, is likely to pull out of the IMF and the World Bank?
You remember Project 2025, Dr. Abati, called for that. And however, A.J. Banga, president of the World Bank, has said that he has had constructive talks with the White House, but he is unsure as to whether or not the U.S. will support a $4 billion pledge that was made by the Biden administration for developing nations. So that is up in the air. A.J. Banga is also expected to expand on energy finance this week, and he's going to make a pivot from renewable energy over to gas and more nuclear projects to fall more in line with the Trump administration. So he himself is not sure whether there will be more support for nations, because you know what happened with U.S. aid and the pullout from there. So that is still something that's lingering in the air, Dr. Abati.
All right, of course, we've been digesting and analyzing Nigeria's reaction to the Trump tariffs and the fallout therein. So I'm glad we've got a great delegation at the spring meetings. And we're hoping this is a great opportunity for some engagement. What are you expecting from the Nigerian delegation, Rotus?
Well, I mean, in addition to the Nigerian delegation, they were even in New York last week. The Central Bank of Nigeria and the NGX were engaging with investors. They had very positive things to say about the reforms in Nigeria. That will continue this week. Even though, Nigeria has been hit with those reciprocal tariffs, that 14% is down to 10%. Oil is exempt from that. Nigeria is going to be pushing for more engagement with investors around its reforms. You see where oil prices are. So it is paramount that Nigeria is able to secure as much investment, particularly foreign direct investment for the nation. So that is going to continue. CBN's here, Ministry of Finance, and a whole lot more from Nigeria.
Just quickly, Rotus, there is some chatter about some form of a controversy between some sort of apology that came from the IMF Managing Director, Kristalina Georgieva, to Nigeria. Can you give us some clarity on that? Like, what actually happened? What is true? What's not true?
Yeah, I mean, it's in today's This Day newspaper, Nigeria's newspaper of record, that she allegedly apologized to the country for quote-unquote negative comments in its the IMF's Article 4 reports on Nigeria. Now, we haven't verified that. We understand that there should be a statement from the IMF on that later on today. We have not verified that. Georgieva actually did say that, and it was said allegedly that Senator Jimoh Ibrahim apparently said he challenged her in a closed-door meeting. In fact, in today's paper, there's a selfie that they took together.
Yeah, we're looking at it right now.
If you're reading the paper, you'll see it there. But the thing... All right. So the thing is, I mean, it sounds, it's a little hazy because the IMF has praised Nigeria's reforms. Apparently, he said the IMF made negative comments about how the reforms are impacting the poor and that Nigeria needs to do more. But the IMF, we've talked to them several times. We had the first deputy managing director in Lagos, Gina Gopinath, who talked about, said the reforms are good, but Nigeria needs to push forward with more welfare supports for the poor. Same thing that Dr. Christian Becker, who is the IMF representative for Nigeria, said on the Global Business Report. So, it's a little, so that the IMF had anything negative to say is something that's a little questionable because they've always supported the reforms, but they've just said that Nigeria has to make sure those reforms trickle down to those at the bottom of the pyramid.
Well, on that note, we'd like to thank you very much, Rotus. Enjoy Washington, D.C. You know the territory, after all. You studied in the United States. So have fun in addition to reporting for Arise News.